Hey, what's going on, kids? I'm Sean from Start to Finish Gaming, and today we begin our brand new adventure here on ARK Survival Evolved. I am really excited about this. I hope you guys are too. Yes, guys, this day has been coming. I mentioned it on my last live stream. I mentioned it in my latest channel update that this was coming, and here we are, and I am so excited to get into this. First of all, the reason why I wanted to do a new series here on ARK is because obviously with the launch of Genesis Part 2, Genesis Part 2 has just brought over so many different things that just change the way to play the game, whether it's through dinos, like the Mowing, or even items like the canoe. It's just going to give you a whole different and immersive experience, and I felt like it was the right time to start up a brand new series, so here we are. Welcome, guys, to episode 0. In this episode, I'm going to go over all the settings. I'm going to go over kind of what I want to get out of this series, kind of talk about my rules, kind of talk about how I want the series and everything to go, and just a little bit of the nitty-gritty. Let's kind of go with that. Gameplay won't be until the first episode, which is going to be coming out this Friday, which would be the... Let me pull up the calendar. Sorry, guys. June 18th. I am planning on having this series once a week. It will be coming on Fridays at 12 o'clock. Noon Eastern. This episode, I wanted to get out to you guys a little bit earlier than Friday, just so, yeah, you guys could actually look over the settings and get excited for the brand new series like I am. So, let's jump into it. Let's get started. So, obviously, we're on the main screen here. First thing, let's jump into the options. There are a couple of settings that I've changed in here that I did want to go over with you guys. First of all, master volume and music volume. As a content creator, this is huge. As you guys know, ARK's music in the menu is just extremely loud, and I would be screaming for you guys to hear me. So knock this down a decent amount. About 80% I've knocked this down, which is why you can hear me, and hopefully the music is a little bit lower in the background. Anyways, going on through, other few things I've changed is the UI item slot scale. That's along the bottom. Your hotbar, essentially. I made that as big as it could physically go. Besides that, two things I have added on is detailed graphics and HDR output. This is how I get it to look really nice. The colors really pop. On top of that, guys, I know you ask me this all the time, which is why I'm covering it now. I am also using the Xbox Series X. I also have a 4K TV that I'm doing, and I'm using the Elgato HD60S, which is their highest tier that you could use for consoles, which allows me to do these videos for you in 4K and then actually send them over to YouTube as 1080p, so it doesn't take 6 hours for a episode to download and everything. It only takes about 4.5, so it is what it is. But anyways, going on through the rest of the settings, everything else is pretty much standard, I'm going to be honest. There are a couple things that I have actually clicked off, which is light bloom and light shafts. If you guys don't know what this is, if you've ever spawned into ARK and you have that crazy amount of sunlight in your face and sometimes it is impossible to see, yeah, it's bloom and shafts, so knock those off and you'll be totally okay. You still get the brightness, it's just not, you don't get the sun rays, if you will, if that makes sense. Moving on, let's see what else I've kind of changed in here. I think everything else is pretty much standard. I will say the only other thing I've changed is Fahrenheit temperature. I am in the United States. We work with Fahrenheit, so I'm not going to have it on Celsius. I can understand a little bit better if it's on Fahrenheit, so it is what it is. Besides that, though, that's all the settings in here that I've changed. I think everything else is pretty good. Let's just apply, save and exit, and let's go into host and local. So, getting started here, let's go over difficulty level. Obviously, very easy. We're putting this up all the way up to 1.0. This is the highest difficulty you can do on console, so we're going to do the highest difficulty that you can do. If you are on PC, go in your INIs, you can actually change that level to a little bit higher. This affects the level of your dinos. So this is one of the requirements in order for you on console to get 150 dinos to spawn in. Dino damage, player damage, structure damage, player resistance, dino resistance, structure resistance, 1.0. We're not touching that. We're going to keep that just vanilla. Okay, XP multiplier. This one's been an interesting one. We've obviously had the increase, which 1.0 now is like old school 2.0, so it's a little bit easier to level. I felt like in the last series we progressed a little too quickly, which is why we're changing this to 0.25. We are really dropping this off. Again, the reason is I want this to be a hard series without doing hardcore. Unfortunately, guys, this will not be a hardcore series, but I did want to give myself that added challenge, and I feel like dropping the XP multiplier to 0.25 is going to be a real grind to get levels. Now, the idea is what I'm planning on doing is 0.25 XP until level 40 or 50, somewhere around there. Maybe once we get cryopods, basically. So what's that, level 46? This then gets boosted instead of 0.25 to 0.5, and then that's what we leave it at. Because again, 0.5, you move pretty fast leveling. So I felt like at higher levels that makes a little more sense. But for now, 0.25 will get the early Bob grind, and I love that part of the game. I know you guys do too. Taming speed. Last time was 4. We're dropping it to 3. Just makes it that little longer to get your tames and all that fun stuff. Structure cooldown's going to stay the same. Dino turret damage going to be the same. Dino harvesting, last time we had 3.5. I felt like that was a little bit too much. So in this time, we're going to go from 3.2 to 3. I don't know how much of a difference it's going to make. This could get adjusted later on. If it does, I will let you guys know at the beginning of that episode that it actually got changed in and like what got changed in, whatever. So moving on. Harvest amount. So this is the amount of stuff that I'm basically going to get when harvesting. Because I am single player, I'm going to do 2. So I'm going to double that a bit. I don't want to have to knock down about 16 trees just to be able to make one wooden foundation, basically. So this speeds it up a little bit, but it's still going to be difficult. Don't worry, guys. Player character water, player character food, all of this is going to stay at 1. I'm not going to touch any of this. This is all vanilla here. Dino count, obviously, we're going to keep that at 1.0. Console, this is the highest we can go. On PC, you can go higher in your INI files, but I don't recommend it because obviously that's going to reduce the performance and everything like that. So moving on to all the check mark stuff. So let's kind of go through this because I always seem to forget 1 or 2 along the way. So let's kind of go through each one slowly. Each one I'll kind of explain like why I'm doing it. So hardcore mode, obviously, if you guys don't know, hardcore mode is if you die, you go back to level 1. That's it. I'm not going to do that. I know some of you guys have been asking for it, but I'm not going to do that. As much as I would like to do maybe a side series in the future of it, and that could be an option. Main series, though, unfortunately, guys, not going to be hardcore mode. Moving on, PvE mode. So on console, PvE and PvP in single player isn't really that much of a difference, I'm going to be honest. PvE, basically, once you get to the level of cryos, that's really the only difference it has on single player, is the fact that if you have PvP on, if you throw a cryo out, you get 300 seconds of the cryo sickness or whatever it is. If you actually enable PvE, that cryo timer is gone, so you don't actually have that timer or anything like that. For now, because we are going to be level 1, we don't need that. Moving on, disable friendly fire, I'm going to turn on. The reason is, especially when we're doing boss fights and stuff like that, I don't want my creatures to not only hit the boss that we're trying to kill, but also in the process are hitting each other. I don't want them to end up killing each other by mistake. So we're not going to actually have that on. Show, we are going to have this on, I apologize. Show map player location, I'm going to turn this on. The idea is that when we actually look at our map in the game, it'll have like a little icon of where we are on the map. If you want a more immersive experience, turn it off so you can actually look around and figure out like where you are. But I'm going to keep it on, it's fine. No tribute downloads I'm going to keep. No, I'm good. Here is the second requirement. This is maximum difficulty. This forces the max level of Dino to 150 regardless of the map. So not only do you have to be on difficulty 1.0, you also have to have this on in order to get 150s to actually spawn in on console. Moving on, use single player settings. I am going to turn this off. Long story short, this increases some of the different stats and stuff like that. It also increases some of the settings. It just makes it a faster overall experience if you are playing on single player. Now, if this is your first time playing the game, I recommend clicking that button, use single player settings, and playing, because it does make the experience a little bit faster, but at the same time, it's a learning process for you. You're going to be figuring out the game and everything, so you don't want it to be too difficult Once you're in your second and third playthrough of the game, or at least you think you have the knack of the game, then you can go through and kind of adjust the settings like I'm doing here. But if this is your first playthrough, I personally recommend single-player settings, clicking that on. Use Corpse Locator, I'm going to keep that on. Basically, that's the little beacon of light that shows up when you die, basically. I'm going to keep that. Disable structure placement collision. I'm going to turn that on. That allows me to clip stuff into the terrain, which is fine. I'm going to do that. Allow multiple platform floors. I'm going to just click it on, personally. I don't really use it. But this is basically if you have a Parasaur platform saddle, if you have a Quetzal platform saddle, where you can build multiple floors on top of them. Traditionally, you can't. This allows you to do so. I'm just going to turn it on. I don't typically use platform saddles, but you never know. I'll try something new in the series, maybe. Allow unlimited respecs, definitely. Yes, please. In case we need to do a Mind Wipe Tonic for crafting skill and stuff like that, I can Mind Wipe Tonic and get my levels back. I don't have to wait until I level up once to do another Mind Wipe Tonic, so I'm going to turn that on. Last but not least, allow flyer speed leveling. This will be turned on, and I can enable it right now. Unfortunately, right now, with how ARK is running right now, we can currently click this button. It will not enable it, though. So unfortunately, even though I have clicked it, it will not enable flyers. Once this update is fixed, I will actually be enabling flyers at that point. I hope we're going to be about 20 to 30 episodes in until we're attempting to get a flyer. Like, I want it to be that much of a grind this season. So hopefully this is fixed before we're even thinking about flyers, basically. So, long story short, though, this will be implemented when it's ready to go. Okay, so that is general. We're going to move on to the advanced side here, basically. So, starting from the top with the advanced rules, pretty much none of this is going to be touched except for allow cave building and allow flyer carry. Cave building, this basically allows me to build a little bed or anything in the caves. If I'm, God forbid I die in one of the caves, basically I have a bed there so I can respawn and run and get my stuff. Flyer carry will allow me to pick up creatures and stuff like that with an Argent, with a Wyvern, what say you. Moving on, all of this is going to stay the same. This is all more PvP stuff, so we don't need to worry about that. Moving on to this section here. Now, this in the last series got me confused, but someone in the comments kind of explained this to me, and I ended up figuring it out. So thank you very much, whoever that was. I apologize. I don't remember who you were, but you explained this to me, and yeah, we ended up getting this correct. So prevent diseases, I'm going to keep that on, because if I turn this off, diseases will not happen in the game, and I want diseases. I want that to happen because that's just an added difficulty. That's an added stress in the game. It just gives you that little extra difficulty, which I like. Non-permanent diseases, though, we are going to check. What this means is, if I get Mega Rabies and die, I do not respawn with Mega Rabies again. If you actually have this unchecked, you will actually continuously have Mega Rabies, and you'll actually need to make lesser antidote to actually cure yourself, basically. Which, don't get me wrong, that could be funny, but at the same time, it could get very, very annoying real quickly, honestly. So, moving on, we're not going to allow flyers into caves or anything like that. Override structure platform, prevention, that's going to be with turrets and spikes can be built and operated on platform saddles. I don't use platform saddles, but you know what? We're going to check that. Why not? Let's have a little fun with that this series. Okay, moving on. So now world settings is going to be a little interesting here because this is all of the mating speeds, the intervals, and stuff like that, which gets a little dicey, but we'll start out with poop interval. Poop interval is going to stay the same at 1.0. For right now, again, going to keep it at 1.0. We'll figure it out. If it needs to be increased, decreased, whatever, I'll let you guys know in whatever episode that is that I changed it to whatever stat it ends up changing to. Lay egg interval is going to stay the same at 1.0. Mating interval, the lowest you can do on console is 0.001. This is the lowest you can do. I think it's in between like a minute to 2 minutes mating cooldown basically with this. On PC, you can go further, but unfortunately, if I went further than this, let's just put 0.005. If you see, it says 0.0. What'll actually happen is when we spawn into the map, that will change over to 1.0. It actually fixes itself, and it'll put it back to official, which I don't want. So I'm going to actually do 0.001 because this is the lowest I can work with. Alright, so for this next part, it is going to get a little tricky. So there's an actual mathematical equation to figure out your egg hatch speed, your mature speed, and all that in order to get a perfect, still be able to get a perfect tame and everything like that. But I've been using a third-party app, and this thing's absolutely amazing. It's called Beacon. Typically, a lot of servers will actually use this, where you can go through your settings, and if you're using like Nintrado, I think it's Nintrado specifically actually, you can actually send all of your settings over to your server, and you can basically just build your server on this thing. It's great. But overall, they do have a breeding multiplier section where I put in the numbers, and it kind of lets me know what the incubation time for each dino is going to be, the mature time, the mating cooldown, the imprint, the percentage per imprint, and if with my settings I can get a max imprint or not. So the following settings that I am going to go over with you guys, I theoretically can get perfect imprints and everything. They're not sponsoring this video, guys. I'm just giving them a shout out. It's actually really, really awesome. It is free to download, so I definitely recommend you guys checking it out. It is called Beacon, and it's absolutely amazing, honestly. They do have a paid version, but you don't need to get the paid version to kind of kick around on this and figure out what your multipliers and stuff should be. They kind of do the math for you, which is great. What I'll do is once I put in all the stats, I'll kind of run through a few of the dinos just to give you guys an idea of what the amount of time we're looking at is, and kind of the reason why I went with these stats. But overall, egg hatch speed is going to be 120, which seems high, yes, but like I said, I'll run through everything once we kind of go through the numbers here. Baby mature speed is going to be 170, okay? Baby food consumption speed is going to stay the same. Then it links out into like harvest health and stuff like that. I don't know why there's kind of like this weird in-between thing, but it is what it is. Resource respawn period, we will actually switch. That's going to be 0.5. This is basically when you break a rock, how long it's going to take until the rock respawns. So I'm going to actually make it half time, which means it's going to be quicker. It's going to spawn in quicker, long story short. Going into the rest of this, baby cuddle interval multiplier, I'm going to do it at 0.007. Yes. And what this means is my imprint period, which is the amount of real time between imprint events, is going to be 3 minutes and 21 seconds roughly. And most dinos I will be looking at in between. Some of the dinos are only 1 or 2 imprints. Some of them are 3, 4, and 5 are most of them. Obviously, the bigger dinos and stuff like that are going to have a little bit more imprints and stuff like that. But like I said, I'll give you guys a couple examples once we get to the bottom here. I think we're actually done with the imprint section. So here we go, just so you guys have an idea. And I'll kind of go over my reason why I ended up with these numbers. But for example, the Allosaurus, basically. Incubation time, which is the amount of time it takes for the male and female to breed and give me the baby, is a total of 50 seconds, basically, which is very quick. I totally get that. But the mature speed on this is 16 minutes and 20 seconds. So once the baby is born, all the way to adult is 16 minutes and 20 seconds. Each imprint is obviously going to be in the window of 3 minutes and 21 seconds. 4 total imprints, 25% per imprint, and I can get a max 100% imprint on this. As long as my timing's right, as long as I have all the materials, it can get done. What's nice about this thing, too, is they have actually updated the creatures, so Genesis Part 2 creatures are on here, too. So, for example, I believe I saw the Shadow Mane on here, just to give you guys kind of another example. Incubation time, so that for the Shadow Mane, they don't drop an egg, so it's the actual, the period in which the baby is growing inside of the mother, basically, is 1 minute and 11 seconds. Mature time, so once the baby is born, all the way to adult, is 17 minutes and 11 seconds. 5 total imprints at 20%, basically. And again, I've done the math. It can get done in that time. It is going to be very, very tight, but as long as I have all the stuff ready to go, should be looking pretty good. Now, the most notable example of how this is a big, big difference, basically, is obviously the Giga. I think on official, it's like the amount of time it takes for the baby to grow up is like 12 days or something. It's absolutely insane. But just to give you guys an idea of what I'm working with on here, incubation time, which is the amount of time it takes for the egg to hatch, will be 24 minutes and 59 seconds. The mature time, so once the baby is born all the way to adult, is 1 hour and 26 minutes and 6 seconds. It'll be a total of 25 total imprints at 4% per imprint. So it can get done. Again, it's going to be very, very tight. But I think these settings are going to be pretty good. If obviously anything does get changed, I will let you guys know at the beginning of that episode and what got changed and whatnot. But I do really, really like these settings. The idea is, guys, that I'm going to be breeding a lot. I don't want to be sitting here all day doing breeding because, yeah, I don't want to sit here all day doing breeding. That's really the answer. And I felt like these were the most even numbers that I can do to kind of not make it too fast, but at the same time not have it go all day, basically. So obviously, like I said, in the future, if I am changing any of these, I'll let you guys know in the comments. Moving on, though. Now we're into the day cycle, the night cycle, and all that. So overall, the day cycle, I'm going to keep at 1.0. I do actually feel like the day in ARK is relatively quick, but that's where the daytime and the nighttime speed come in here. So what we're going to do is we're going to put the daytime speed to 0.15. And another thing that I really do like about Beacon is it gives me the amount of minutes of what my day will be then, which is really, really cool, honestly. I'm not really a huge fan of the night, but I do feel like that in the last series, I kind of breezed over the night because, one, recording-wise and everything isn't the best at night, but I do feel like that there are threats that we're losing out on because I'm skipping through night. Like the fact that Trudons are aggressive and everything like that. The fact that if we go out on an adventure, we have to bring... I'm not using Gamma, so we are going to have to bring... like torches with us and everything, so our line of sight is not going to be that great, and it just gives you that extra fear factor of the of that portion of the nighttime, which is really, really cool to me. So I definitely want to implement that more in this series. But what's nice, like I said, about this Beacon app is it actually tells me the amount of minutes that we're working with. So 0.15 in the day is 275.89 minutes, which that's a lot of time, let's put it that way. So we're looking pretty good there. Nighttime overall ends up being 20 minutes if it's at 0.931, which that's more than enough time. I kind of have an idea what I want to do once night hits in an episode, so you guys will find that out once we hit night in one of our episodes, kind of what I'm going to do with that. But what's nice about this app too, it lets me know what aberration seasons look like too. So I'll run through that with you guys, just so you guys know and are familiar. So days ending in 0, 1, 2, or 3, with our settings, the day is 218 minutes and 56 seconds. Nighttime is 27.10 minutes. Not that bad overall, but whatever. Days ending in 4, 5, or 6, 437.22 minutes. Nighttime is 6.02 because 4, 5, and 6 is when it's 90% day, 10% night. So it's obviously night's going to be very, very quick. Day's going to be spread out a lot more, especially with the 0.15 added to it. So days ending in 7, 8, or 9, this is when night speed is actually slower. Daytime is 48.56 minutes, and nighttime is 54.24 minutes. So what I'm going to do probably in the future is whenever we do actually head over to Aberration and we are going to actually head to the surface for something, I may adjust the times a little bit just to give myself a little more time on the surface, because I feel like 54 minutes might not be enough doing that for 3 nights, basically, and that's kind of it. So we'll figure that out at a later point overall. But I feel like for now, these settings are actually pretty good, and I'm pretty happy with them. Moving down to spoil time, though, here. So spoil time multiplier, I feel like in the beginning of the game, if you have this set to 1, the spoil time is just incredibly quick, and you end up having so much spoiled meat so quickly. So I'm going to keep that at 2.0. I feel like it's kind of a decent balance, and it ends up working out pretty nicely, where you don't just get hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of spoiled meat, like, within minutes, you know what I mean? So, item decomposition time, I'm going to put at 2.5. Based on what Beacon has the timers and everything set up, 2.5 should end up being item decomp time is 5 minutes. So if I just throw rocks on the ground and I throw skins on the ground and whatever, you know, like at the beginning of the game when you throw like 3 or 4 skins on the ground, that's going to last 5 minutes. So I have 5 minutes to pick that stuff up if I end up changing my mind. Corpse decomposition time, I'm going to put that at 2. Now, what that translates to is 30 minutes. So it gives me 30 minutes to get my stuff if I end up dying, and I think that's pretty good. Hopefully these settings are correct. If not, obviously, I'll adjust them in a future episode. We'll check it out in episode 1, which is going to appear this Friday, if these settings are actually accurate or not. And if not, then I'll adjust and kind of figure out what we need to do. But overall, this gives us 30 minutes to grab our stuff if we die, and this overall, if we just drop something on the ground, gives us 5 minutes to change our mind. So I think that's pretty good. No resource radius, I'm going to drop that to 0.5. What that means is rocks, trees, stuff like that will not spawn within a certain distance around us. This is shortening that distance, basically. And I'm going to do the same with structures. I'm not a fan of knocking down so many trees around a house that now you have no foliage, you have nothing. It's just a barren wasteland. So this kind of allows them to respawn and kind of regrow that area around your property, which just looks a little more aesthetically pleasing to me. Crop and decay and growth speed are going to stay at 1.0. I'm not going to change these because this requires me to really grind to get greenhouse, because obviously the growth speed takes forever and a day if you don't have greenhouse. So that's the plan. We're going to keep it at that. Going through all the stats per level and stuff, this is all official. I'm not going to touch this. I don't want any boosts or anything like that. Like I said, we're making this a hard series, so we're not going to be boosting or anything like that. Moving on down here, the only thing we're going to add to the miscellaneous settings is show floating damage text. That's just a personal thing of mine. I just like seeing that pop up, basically. And then the other one we're going to do is allow raid dino feeding. So what this does is it allows the Titanosaur to actually feed. So long story short, if we do end up taming a Titanosaur at some point, it just allows us to allow it to keep living instead of starving to death. It's a PvP server thing, so it prevents a person or like a tribe to actually hold on to this thing forever. It kind of has like a timer until it dies, basically. But now that we have this clicked, as long as we have food in its inventory, it will stay alive if we ever tame one. But moving on down the group here, this is all going to stay 1.0, except for increased platform structure limit, and we'll go over that in a minute. All this stuff, like I said, is going to stay 1.0. In the last series, I actually had supply crates and fishing loot at 5.0. I didn't realize it was that high, but it makes sense. If you guys remember, a lot of the drops I was getting, I was actually not able to craft them because it just required so many items, like 20,000 hide and 13,000, which is not a lot, I know, but like that's just for a single player. Like, that's a decent amount of stuff that you have to get from one saddle. Tens of thousands of metal we would need for some saddles, you know? This basically puts us back down to official, which again makes it that much harder to get a really good saddle, which I'm really, really excited about overall. Finally, the only other thing I will be changing is this increased platform structure limit. I'm going to put this at 5.0, and basically what this does is, if you guys are riding around on like a raft or something like that, you can only put about 84 items on a raft, and that's all it'll allow you to do. And that includes foundations, that includes structures, so like refining forges and stuff like that. Refining forges. Yeah, like refining forges and smithies and stuff like that. I thought I said the industrial forge. So yeah, like that's something you would put on there. But anyways, like all that stuff, you only get 84 things to put on there. With this increase to 5, it basically is 84 times 5, which is a ton of stuff overall. So we're going to be okay in that department. So really, really excited with all these settings. I really do like them. If you guys have any suggestions or questions when it comes to the settings, throw it in the comments down below. I'll definitely kind of go into detail, like my thoughts and opinions and stuff like that, especially when it comes to the breeding settings, because obviously those are always a little bit tricky, but this beacon app does make it a lot easier to kind of figure that out, which is really, really nice. Again, I will say it one more time. I think I mentioned this earlier in the video. I'm not sponsored by them or anything, guys. I'm just giving them a shout out because it has really, really helped kind of figure out this process overall. So at this point, settings are pretty much done. Let's jump into kind of the rules and kind of how I'm going to make this series a little harder for myself, because there's a few things I want to do with it that I think is going to be a lot of fun overall. Okay, guys, so rules and how I want to play this ARK series, basically, is kind of interesting, or at least I think it's interesting. A lot of you guys have mentioned to me that you guys want a story mode. Now, for those that aren't familiar, story mode is you head in onto the island, you cannot leave the island, you're stuck on the island, and your only way to leave the island is to ascend. From there, you go to Scorched Earth, repeat the process, then go to Aberration, Extinction, yada, yada, yada. You can't transfer to any other maps or anything like that. Personally, I'm not going to do that, and my reason is I don't want to limit myself from traveling to other maps and whatnot, because I will tell you guys, yes, a lot of the beginning of this playthrough, probably 20, 30 episodes in, is going to be on the island, but there will be those episodes once in a while. We're going to head over to Genesis Part 2. We're going to head over to Ragnarok in one of the episodes. We are going to be jumping back and forth. It allows me to get all other creatures, and there's a specific reason why, which I'll go over when I talk about how we're going to kind of work boss fights and everything. So overall, I don't want to get bored with the series. I want to have fun with it just like you guys, and having myself limited where I can't go over to the other maps is just going to ruin it for me, let's put it that way. So I want to make this as enjoyable for you guys, but also I want to have it enjoyable on myself, where I'm want to make this stuff for you, long story short. So that's kind of the compromise I'm going with, guys. But here's kind of how we're going to play the series. So we are going to spawn in on the island. We're going to play through the island. We will head over to other maps and stuff like that to kind of grab this, grab that, you know, whatever. But the main part of it will be on the island to start. Boss fight wise, we have to defeat all of the island bosses before moving on to another map, Scorched Earth, I would assume. So I can't head over to Scorched Earth first and take out the Manicore because it is the easiest. I have to take out the Broodmother, Mesopithecus, and Dragon, all 3 levels of them, plus the Overseer, to quote-unquote ascend and allow myself to head over to Scorched Earth to take on the next boss. But here's the interesting thing, and something that I want to implement into this. First of all, when it comes to boss fights, we are going to be using unique dinos for every single boss fight. So what I mean by that is, when we take on the Broodmother, again, I assume we're going to do Megatheriums, but we could do something a little bit different. Because I've used Megatheriums in the Broodmother fight, I can no longer use Megatheriums as a boss choice. They are done, that's it. It allows me to use other creatures and implement other creatures that we might have never used before. What this also allows is, if I get a really good male Rex and a really good female Rex, and I use them in a boss fight, that's it. That's their only shot. That's it. We can't just rush all the different bosses with that same army. Which one doesn't... I feel like if you do that, it makes it a little bit boring of an experience. This allows us to get a little unique. It allows us to try out some new dinos with boss fights and everything like that. I will say, with this rule, we are going to have a bit of an issue when it comes to the tech variants. I don't know how we want to handle that yet. In my head right now, I would like to consider them separate creatures. So Rex and Tech Rex would technically be 2 separate creatures, but we can talk about it in the comments and figure out what we want to do. But I'm actually really, really excited to try to implement this, because I think it's just going to allow us to tame other creatures that we wouldn't traditionally have done before, to try them out in boss fights. And I think that could be a lot of fun. And it's a great learning experience. That's at least how I'm looking at this whole playthrough, basically, as a big, big learning experience, basically. Another rule that I want to implement when it comes to the boss fights and everything like that, my goal in this series is to show you guys that you do not have to do 20, 30, 40 mutations. You can technically defeat this game. You can actually defeat the bosses without any mutated creatures. So my rule is, if as we're breeding boss creatures, I do get a mutated dino, that mutated dino can be involved in the boss fight, but it's not going to be involved in the breeding process to get more dinos with that mutation. So what I mean is, just to kind of give you guys an idea, we're breeding up Megatheriums for the broodmother. I have the perfect male, perfect female, they're breeding, getting us the babies. I get one with a melee mutation. I am not going to actually have that melee mutation breed with the perfect male or the female and continuously pump out 20 Megatheriums with the mutation stat, basically. The one that has the mutation stat, the baby, will grow up with the rest of them, and that's the only one that gets the advantage. That's it. So my idea is to show you guys that you don't have to do 20, 30 mutations to beat this game. As long as you get some naturally good dinos, and it does take a while, it does take a lot of hunting, a lot of taming, and everything like that. On top of that, you have to get a good saddle, but it is possible, and with leveling them and everything like that. So I don't want to do mutations in this one. That's kind of a rule that I'm putting on myself, and I think, again, it's going to make things very, very interesting, especially the tougher boss fights ahead, like the Overseer, and Rockwell, obviously, has always been an issue for us, so we won't go into that right now, though. But anyways, another thing that I want to do with the series, and I think it is going to be a lot of fun, again, like I said, it's a learning experience, this one. I want to... This is the last hurrah. This is it for ARK. This is the last map. So that's why I want to explore all the maps. That's why I want to just take the series as far as it can go and kind of segue us into ARK 2, which doesn't come out till 2022, possibly 2023. So my idea is this series is going to go very long, and one of the things that I really, really want to do with the series is I want to tame every single creature in the game, and the reason I want to do that is there might be some creatures that, whether we're not familiar with, whether you or I might not like that creature, once you end up taming that creature, you might grow an appreciation for it, because it might end up being really, really good. In example, when I ended up doing the Center series and getting myself an Iguanodon, I never realized how good and how useful it was going to be for me in general. Now, looking at new series, an Iguanodon might be something that I want to pick up. So, overall, there's probably plenty of creatures like that that I personally have never tamed, or you, as the viewer, have never seen before, and you might grow an appreciation for that creature too, because not only is this a learning experience for me, but I want to make it a learning experience for you guys too. So that's another thing that I do want to try to do, and I have a few ideas with the with getting every single dino. I have a couple of projects in mind. I don't know how crazy it's going to get, but the wheels are turning. Let's put it that way overall. Overall, guys, I think I've went over all the settings. I kind of went over all the rules and all the hopes and what I expect to get done in this series. What we're going to do at this point is we're going to jump down into play single player, and we're just going to do a little bit of character creation here, because some of you guys could be brand new to this game. You might not be familiar with this process, so I'll quickly go over it, and then, yeah, obviously, Episode 1 is going to come out this Friday, which is the 19th or 18th of June. 18th of June at 12 o'clock noon Eastern, and, yeah, then we'll actually get into the gameplay. But overall, this one was more of a informational session for you guys, just to kind of see and kind of go behind the scenes a bit and kind of understand my thought process when it comes to all this stuff. But guys, this is the character creation screen. Now, you can do a few different things to kind of customize your character and everything. If you prefer to be female, you can be female. What you can do is you can go through each stat and kind of change things from eye color to head size to head width to whatever. You do have another option, though, if you want to get kind of funny. Click this randomize button, which is this dice here, and it'll kind of just randomize a player for you. And whether you want to use one of these guys or maybe draw inspiration from one of these guys, you can kind of just go from there, basically. But another thing, too, is if you actually like, let's just say, this character here, just press this button and you can save it as a preset so you can use it in future playthroughs or on a server and stuff like that. But I'm going to go back to default here and kind of make my guy here. I'm going to make him a little tan because, let's be honest, he's going to be in the sun a bit. So let's make him a little, yeah, Okay, let's see. Yeah, that's fine. It's kind of right in the middle there. Perfect. Hair color, brown's fine. I'm going to do blue eyes. Personally, I just have blue eyes, so it kind of works out that way. What I'm actually going to do here is my guy's going to be the default guy, just like this. But what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to drop each one 3 pegs. And the reason is you're going to want to make your character a little shorter. That's just a personal opinion from me. The reason why I do that is when you're in the process of building bases and everything like that, if you actually mess up your snap points, if you mess up the door snap point, you mess up your floor snap point, and you mess up your ceiling snap point, there's a chance that you will actually get stuck while trying to enter your house. So what I'm doing is naturally I'm making my character a little shorter, so if I do end up messing up my snap points, I still should be okay. I shouldn't have to duck to get into my house or anything like that. And then on top of that, I just made everything else proportionate, because obviously if he's like a little bit shorter, but like everything else is the same general proportion, then like it just looks a little funky. So I'm trying to make my guy look as normal as possible. Moving on over here, basically, you get to pick your spawn region, kind of what you want to work in. I'm personally going to do South Zone 1. I love South Zone 1. I know a couple of you guys at the beginning of the last series complained that even though it does say easy, yes, there is a rare chance that you get 1, even 2 Spinos in your area, so you do have to watch out for that. You do get Baryonyxes in your area, again, watch out for that, but and sometimes you can even get Carnos near you, so it is an easy area overall, but you do tend to get a couple of threats and everything. Anywhere in the South Zone, honestly, is actually pretty good. I would even say the West Zones aren't too bad if you're familiar. If you're just joining this, if you're actually just playing this game for your first time, just do South Zone 1. You'll be fine. It's not that big of a deal. Don't do medium or hard, especially like East Zones and North Zones, because North will put you in the middle of the snow, and you're going to die anyways of hypothermia. East Zones overall aren't... Yeah, they're pretty bad, actually. I would say East Zone 1 would be your best bet, but if you want to go on the east side, then do that. But overall, I like South Zone 1. That's my favorite spot overall to start out in. Obviously, customize your name. You don't want to be called human. You want to be called whatever you want to be called. And overall, guys, that's it. That's episode 0 for you guys. Like I said before, I know this was a lengthy episode, guys. I do apologize. But at the same time, I want to go over all the settings with you. I want to go over all my thoughts. Obviously, the reason why I ended the previous series to start this one up. And it really comes down to timing, honestly, and just how I overall felt about the experience. But settings, going over the rules, going over everything. I am extremely excited for this brand new series. I hope you guys are too. I'm excited for the grind. You guys have told me in the comments that you're excited for the grind and everything like that, so let's get excited about the series. I'm really excited to get started. I hope you guys are excited to start watching it, but that, in fact, is going to wrap up today's episode, guys. Episode 0, done and dusted. Next episode, we'll start on this screen here. We'll spawn on in, and then we'll get into gameplay. So really excited. That video will come out this Friday, like I mentioned, June 18th, 12 p.m. Eastern. All these episodes for ARK will be coming out on Fridays at 12 p.m. Eastern. But like I said, that's going to wrap up this one, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, smash that like button. Questions, comments, leave them down below. Also, guys, if you're brand new to the channel or you're already enjoying my content and you just haven't hit that subscribe button yet, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. It really helps me out. And I'll see you guys on the next one. We get into gameplay. I'm really excited. I'll see you guys on the next one.